Story time on how I inadvertently discovered one of the wildest types of contraband. But first, let me give y'all this little bit of tea. I got to get this off my chest. All this time, I have not been making coins off of my story times and content because my account was set up as a business account. Once I realized that the other day, I immediately switched over to personal. So I expect all my coin TikTok and I expect to be rich by tomorrow. Okay. But, anyways, let's get into the story time. So, on the weekends, it's very relaxed at institutions, especially if it's a holiday weekend, because you have absolutely no admin shift there at all. And 98% of the institutions are short staffed, which means it's the perfect time for contraband to enter and exit the institution. I go to this institution, it's a male institution, it's a Saturday morning, and it's a holiday weekend. I go inside, I go through security, and I'm not above anybody else, so I remove my shoes, my jacket, take my cell phone out, go to my settings, show the security officer that this is indeed a safe cell phone, get cleared by security, go on the other side of the door to put my belt on, and as I'm putting my belt on, I notice that there's an officer that is walking towards the exit gate, and he has a dog with him. In my position, I'm not required to wear a uniform. I choose to wear a uniform Monday through Thursday, but if I'm doing just like a pop up, I'm probably coming in my street clothes. And because I don't give institutions a heads up and some of these officers don't know who I am, sometimes they assume that I'm just a visitor. As he got closer to the exit, I asked him, was that a service animal? He said, what? I said, is that a service animal? Now, before I could make my next statement, the officer that cleared me through security said, this is Investigator Hernandez. That was pretty much cue for whatever response you give her. It's going to need to make sense. So he said, yeah, it's my service animal. I got PTSD. I said, okay, well, if no one ever told you, not only do you have to be in compliance with your uniform, but your service animal also needs to be in compliance with his uniform. He said, all right, cool. He went about his way. I went about mine. Stopped at the control room and got a radio. Then I decided that I was going to go down to one of the corridors. As I'm walking, there's an inmate that they're taking to medical, and he's bleeding. And then there's an officer that's holding his arm, and he's bleeding. So I did a little I'm like, y'all all right? Y'all good? And they said, yeah, we good. I said, all right. Went on about my way, popped up in another dorm, signed their book, left back out, went to medical. And I inquired about the condition of both the officer and the inmate because I'm thinking, like, did they get in a fight with each other that they're bleeding? Let medical do their thing. And they said, no, they both were bit. I said, bit by what? They got, they're bleeding like that. What kind of bite was it? Now, it's real common in prisons for people to get bit by like spiders, you know what I'm saying? And they, in some of these institutions have, what do you call those? Like water moccasins or whatever. So I was just like, what bit them that would cause that amount of blood to be dripping out through the hallway? And they said, somebody bit them, like one of the inmates was out of control, but it looks more like an animal bite. First thought that popped up in my head was maybe they was bit by the service animal that the officer just took out of the institution. Where's your shift commander? Find the shift commander, and I asked him, was he aware of this incident? He was like, kind of like, beating around the bush, like he was and he wasn't. I said, well, either way, I'm going to need a report, and I need that report immediately. I'm not expecting the officer that was bit to actually write the report. Maybe you can get one of your officers can write the report for him while he tells them what happened, and the same with that inmate. But either way, I need a report. I said, because he's going to be going out on workers' comp. This is going to fall under workers' comp. He needs to go be seen. And then also this inmate, we need to figure out what's going on. So yeah, I need those reports. He said, okay. At this institution, per policy, they can only work that assignment for 6 months, no more than 6 months, because it's a highly intense area to work in, and they don't want the officers to get too comfortable with the inmates and vice versa. So they need to be able to move around. And then they also need to learn how to work other areas of the institution. I told y'all, working inside of these institutions is like being in high school. Word gets around fast. After I left the shift commander, I decided that I would go to visitation, check out and see what they had going on. I go up to the officer's podium and I'm talking to the officer, and they're bringing in more inmates for their visit. Now, when inmates come in for visitation, they do have to check in with the visitation officer. So while I'm standing there talking to her, again, I have on my street clothes. The inmate comes and he stands right beside me, and he's like talking over me, trying to give her the tea, telling her that so-and-so and so-and-so got bit down there. She was like, got bit by who? He was like, no, they was down there fighting the dogs. Man, dogs, today Saturday, this is how he's talking. He's going so fast. And so she's trying to give him the eye, you know what I'm saying? But he's not picking up what she's putting down. She's basically trying to let him know to shut his mouth. But he continues to keep on talking. And then you got the other inmates that's behind me, they're talking. So I'm like, well, y'all enjoy y'all visit. And he looked at me and he said, "Who you?" I said, "Oh, I'm your investigator for this institution. I just came by to give y'all a little visit for the day." So he said, "Oh shit." Like his whole facial expression changed. Leave out of visitation and I head back to the control room. I get on one of the computers and I'm pulling the rosters. And I noticed that on the rosters that the officers that are working down there today are the same officers that have been working down there for the last year and a half. So I told their watch commander, I said, "Do you realize that the officers that are working down there have been down there for a year and a half?" He said, "Yeah, we keep them down there because they're really good with the inmates. They resolve a lot of issues. We have less behavior issues since they've been down there. So we decided to keep a good thing going." I said, "Okay, well, when next quarter comes up, they need to be removed. They need to be rotated because although they may be good officers and they may be able to solve a lot of issues down there, they need to learn how to work other areas of this facility." And he said, "Okay." I leave out of the control room because me seeing that they've been working down there for this amount of time is automatically a red flag. Before I can get all the way out of the control room, the person from visitation is calling the shift commander on the radio, and she's like asking him to give her a 21, which is give her a phone call. And she's making it sound like it's urgent. So I step back. I said, "Is everything good?" He gives her 21, and he said, "Oh yeah, everything's good." Okay, so I leave out of there. Something in my spirit told me to just go ahead and head to the area of the facility that this incident happened in. So that's what I did. Now he's trying to call me because he's left out of the control room, and he's trying to call me on my radio to ask me to come back to the control room. So I stand midways in the corridor and I'm like, "No, you can come down here because, yeah, I'm not one of those." So he hurry ups and come down there. And he was just like, "If you can give me a few minutes, I can get an officer to escort you inside of the unit." And I said, "I don't need an officer to escort me inside of the unit." He was like, "No, but you got to have, because we got the keys." And I'm like, "Yeah, I understand. And I also have a master key to everything inside of this institution." After I said that, his entire facial expression changed. And now he's trying to give me bullshit conversation. And I can tell that he's just trying to distract me. So I continue to keep on walking to that area. Now he's walking with me. All before you would get an officer to escort me, but now you want to walk with me. So we get there, and before we get to the door, he's letting the dorm know that we're at their 20. And I said, "You don't have to let them know that we're coming inside." And he said, "Oh, well, I want them to go ahead and have the door open for you." I said, "I don't need them to open the door because, again, I have a master key." We go inside of the dorm, and everybody is looking spooked, including him. And by his facial expressions, again, they're not picking up what he's putting down. But I heard the distinct sound of an animal. I love animals. I'm standing there trying to process everything that I'm seeing and I'm hearing. This is a level 3 area, which means that this is not really considered a dorm, it's actually considered a wing. The inmates that are there, they're level 3, so they're behind double doors and they're in one-man cells. In that moment, an inmate comes around a corner with a puppy. Oh, how I wish that you all could have seen the look on their shift commander's face as well as those officers. And at the same time, he's getting a call on the radio, and I know that he hears it because I hear it, but he's trying to ignore it. And I said, "You might want to check your radio because your control room officers are calling you. There's an emergency." And he said, "Oh, well, do you mind going to see what the emergency is, while I stay here and get this straightened out because I don't know what they have going on?" I said, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." I said, "If you have an emergency, you as the shift commander, you need to report to the control room because as of right now, this is your institution. So you can go ahead and go off the wing, and I'm going to stay here and I'm going to handle this." He did not want me to stay in there with them by myself. And it wasn't out of fear of my safety. It was out of fear of his. While he's exiting the unit, I tell the officers, because it was 3 officers there, I said, "Lock the entire wing down now. There should not even be a houseman out. In fact, go ahead and pull your houseman so he can go back to his dorm." And so if you're new here or if you don't remember, a houseman pretty much comes onto the wing. They clean the wing, pass out laundry, pick up laundry, pass out trays, assist with canteen. They're basically like an assistant to the officer. And when you have lazy officers, the houseman is the officer. This is also one of the institutions that I did a story time on a while back. And I told y'all that the warden at this institution cared more about the cats that was on the compound than they did about the officers. That piece of information is essential to this story time because whenever there was an issue with the cats on the compound, the warden would call this particular organization. They would come out there, sometimes rehouse the cats or nurse them back to health and then bring them back. So I knew this was an organization that I can call because clearly if there's one puppy in here, and I seen a service dog exiting, that there's probably more than 2 animals that is here right now. In addition to calling this organization, I also made a phone call to another institution and I asked them, is there any way possible that you can spare at least 6 of your officers? Like, if you have the additional staff, right now is the time and I need it. And I owe them one. So they said, well, we don't have 6, but we can send you 4. Hey, I'll take the 4. I'm grateful that they're sending 4 officers over. However, I needed them to make sure that it was 4 of their strongest officers, meaning that you're not scared of animals and you are not scared of humans. So while I'm waiting for those officers to come on, I tell the officers, let me see your logbook. I'm going through the logbook. Now, you're supposed to log an entry every 30 minutes minimum at this institution. There had not been anything logged in that book since they came on shift that day. The institution that the other officers were coming from that I was waiting on, it wasn't going to take them long to get there because their institution is adjacent to this institution. So I told the other officers, don't go anywhere. I need y'all to just stand right here. It's going to be a few more minutes. But, just be patient. We're going to get this handled. I'm not really saying much to them. They're trying to ask me questions. I'm not saying anything to y'all because the time to tell me about anything was going on was before I walked onto your wing. So now the other officers have arrived. And as soon as they come inside, I tell the 3 officers that's standing there, I said, go ahead and pass those officers your keys, the radio, your gas, take that uniform shirt off. And then when one of them take their uniform shirt off, it's just bare chest with Puerto Rican pubic hair on it. Sir, you out of compliance. Just put the damn shirt back on. Just put it on. This institution, you're supposed to have a gray t-shirt under your uniform. So they was already out of compliance, but whatever. Put that shirt back on. We'll get you something else out the lost and found. Go ahead and hand me your IDs, take your badges off your shirts. I need all of that, right? You can go to the front. Either you can go to the control room and wait for me to come, or you can go ahead and leave. Either way, I'll be in touch. 2 of the officers that came over to help accompanied me on side A of the wing. We went down the catwalk. Catwalk is very narrow walkway. It's also very dangerous, especially when you're dealing with level 3 inmates. You could be thrown over at any point in time, so you really have to be mindful. While we go down side A to do the security check, we came back out with 5 puppies. Okay. Gave the 5 puppies to one of the officers that was standing there waiting for us to come back up. We go down side B. Side B, we were able to get 3 dogs. Okay, so we made sure everything was locked down. Every inmate was back in their cell, double locked. We just gathered those things and I told 2 of the officers, can 2 of y'all stay here? One of y'all go ahead and get the logbook caught up. If there's not anything that I need the other officers for when we're finished, I'll send them back down to you. They said, all right. I'm skimming through the story and I'm purposely leaving out details because, of course, you have to purchase the book. But anyways, the organization finally gets there. They pick the dogs up. And by the way, they were red-nosed pits. If you know me, you know that I used to have nothing but red-nosed pits. I love pits. But anyway, it wasn't the time for me to adopt any. I already had some at the house. So they get the dogs and they go on about their way. I told them that I would, stop by after I had the situation handled. And then now here comes their shift commander coming out. And I asked him, was everything okay from the emergency? Well, come to find out, everything was not okay because that inmate had to be sent out to outside medical. So let me tell y'all what happened to that inmate. So they were down there fighting dogs. They absolutely were. Not only were they fighting dogs, but they were also breeding dogs. Okay. And yes, the shift commander was definitely in on this because there is no way possible you can tell me that you did not know what was going on inside of your institution. It's your institution. The bite that the officer and the inmate received, it came from the dog that was being escorted out of the facility. Yep. And let me tell y'all how you know whether or not an institution has a reputable warden. If your warden never walks the institution alone, if your warden doesn't know just about everybody's name that's on the compound, that institution has a shitty ass warden. This warden had no credentials. He was hired through nepotism, as per usual. You know how they do, as per usual. When I asked this warden exactly what was his job before he came to the institution, he was a store manager at the Food Lion grocery store. And I know that everybody has to start somewhere, but this was a nepotism hire. You can't come straight from a grocery store into being a warden and think that you know how to run a facility. It doesn't work that way at all. So we had our roundtable meeting. Myself, the shift commander, their regional director, the warden, the 3 officers that I told to, give me their IDs and badge and take the shirt off, all of that. And then I also had to get the officer that was leaving out of the institution that lied and said that it was a service animal. During the roundtable meeting, the officer that left out of the institution with the dog, he said that he never said that was a service animal. I assumed that it was a service animal. Now, unfortunately, he didn't know that not only are they under video surveillance in certain areas of the institution, but they are also audio that's being recorded at the time. So I already had that audio. Like, when I tell you that you cannot pimp a pimp, you cannot pimp a pimp. I don't put anything past these officers, okay? Nothing. I played the recording for him and for everybody else that was at the roundtable meeting. I said, "Is this not you? Is this not you telling me that this is a service animal?" Yes, I initially asked, "Was this a service animal?" You said that it was a service animal. And I told you that yourself and your service animal needed to be in compliance. While everybody's still sitting there looking like lookers, I pull the other 3 officers to the side. I tell them, shit rolls uphill. Okay? So anything that you need to tell me, I need it on this incident report. Once I leave, that's it. I'm not listening to what you should have told me, what you wish that you would have told me. This is your opportunity. These people are not your friends. When y'all get in court, I can guarantee you that they're going to put everything that happened on you. Conclusion, because you know I can't give you all the tea. I can't give it all to you right here. Everybody that was sitting at that round table, with the exception of the secretary that was taking our notes and the regional director, everybody else was involved in this. The wing that this happened on was a wing full of Bloods. And I told them, I don't even have conversations with Bloods simply because you're going to end up with a co-defendant. I don't care. They have the most co-defendants. But I wanted to let them know, y'all warden really shitted y'all. Like, I had to put that icing on there. Your warden shitted on you. He made more money than any of y'all. Y'all got crumbs. Crumbs. Barely got anything. Putting your freedom on the line for somebody who don't give a damn about you, who literally pushed all of the blame off on you and the watch commander, and y'all knew what was going on. That's why I don't fool with Bloods. I'm in that story time right there. If you want more detail, like I said, you're going to have to purchase the book. Also, I do see that a lot of y'all have tagged me in that young lady's post in regards to the correctional officers in New York that have went on strike and left the inmates there at the institution alone. I am not ignoring y'all. I just choose not to comment on other people's videos when my name is tagged, because sometimes people don't know when to stop. And I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about when people assume that I'm the one that's going to help them, or when somebody else volunteers my services to help them. Those people don't know how to stop messaging me. And baby, I don't want to be aggravated. I'm trying to lay on my side and rub my feet together, okay? But yeah, I definitely seen that. Appreciate y'all tagging me in that. Again, you know, that's my old stomping ground. So of course, I'm going to give my 2 cents on it.